Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is the April 30th meeting of the Ordinance Committee, subcommittee to the Holyoke City Council. I'm the vice chairman. With me tonight is a member of the committee, Terrence Murphy, and through rules that we, our city council rules, Councilor Sullivan joins us to make a quorum. And it's through us rules of city council that we amended a few years ago, and I can't remember the rule number, but the administrative assistant will so note that in the minutes that we using whatever rule 60 something that my Councilor Sullivan's here. Also joining with us is Robert Parent, the city engineer, and Attorney Barnes from the law department. Welcome all. If I could get I don't think we have meeting minutes, at least I don't see them. If I could get a motion on number 2, please.
Make a motion, we take up item 2.
Second.
On the motion to remove item number 2 from the table, all in favor? Aye. This is a special permit application of Life Essence, Inc. for establishment of a marijuana manufacturing establishment at 56 Canal, also known as 7 North Bridge Street. We had a public hearing last Tuesday. We closed the public hearing. Is that a true statement, Councilor Murphy?
I'm pretty sure that is true.
Attorney Barnes, we closed the public hearing last Tuesday?
Yeah, I thought we closed the hearing.
I asked for the administrative assistant to so advise me on that through the minutes. So if the administrative assistant would send me a message or just so advise me, because I just want to know what, because I don't have the meeting minutes. So I'm going to need to have him come in here.
I did,
I don't have a message from you, so.
if you check your email, you'll see.
Oh, okay.
But it's,
We did close.
but I don't believe that you did close the public hearing.
No, you don't think so?
No, I just watched the whole video and
Okay.
it wasn't closed.
Wait, it was not closed?
It was not closed.
That was my recollection.
So,
All right, thank you, Ryan. Okay, yeah, I was given, yeah, I didn't think we did close it. So if we could just amend the motion, please, to open up the public hearing, please.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing.
second.
On the motion to open public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have before us the agenda item, and we are in a public hearing. We're joined by the Ward 1 Councilor. Welcome. Joined by Marcos Merrill. Marcos, welcome. Okay, and that was at my behest. So why don't we start with a start? Crystal, where are we with the, one of the issues before us last week was the hours operation. Why don't you just explain to us what 7.10.5.c is actually saying in the city ordinances?
So that actually says that operations including delivery shall not occur between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. So it's operations, comma, including deliveries.
All right, so to make it very clear, and I think the applicant's aware of this now, and the city officials are aware, they cannot operate overnight at this point. We cannot amend that through a special permit either. That has to be, it can only be done through an ordinance change. And we'd have to go through the regular process of a councilor filing an order and refer to this committee for an ordinance change. So we don't have to think about that, okay? Marcos, from your department's perspective, I have the letter dated April 26th, signed by Curtis Wyman, Planner 1, and it looked to me as though all the issues were resolved, but I know it's not all the issues are resolved because the proponent's going to be before you relative to before the planning board next week relative to, I think, fencing maybe?
Fence height, I believe.
Fence height?
Yep.
All right, so Marcos, we all read the letter, but why don't you just tell us what the perspective is of the planning department so on this applicant's proposal?
Sure. At this point, they have a complete submittal. Everything in it is clear, and so we're not making a value judgment on these. We're here to advise the board as to the completeness of the application, making sure that they answer the questions as they're posed in the ordinance. And so at this point, they've demonstrated to our analysis how the site functions, and what proceeds is your determination whether that is good enough or not.
No, no value judgment here. We don't do that here, do we? Okay, but joined by Councilor Lisi, welcome.
Well, you know, I can expand on that. You know, they've provided traffic, they've provided lighting plans that are adequate. I believe last time one of the unknowns was whether the fire department had signed off. I've personally seen the fire department signature on their turnaround plans. I've seen the email of Captain Moriarty saying that the only thing that was pending was the chief of police's signature, but Captain Moriarty didn't seem to have an issue with it in the email that I saw. So they seem to have addressed all the major things. That the fence height, it's just a different process, and in my experience, the planning board does not unreasonably withhold those.
Okay, on signage, so 13 or 14, what's happening there?
They have no current plans for signage during construction.
All right. So as far as your perspective as a head of that department, it's a complete application.
Yeah, it's one of the most complete that we've seen.
Okay, Mr. Parent, welcome. I had a follow-up letter dated April 27th signed by you that, based on a review of these plans, looks like they've addressed the issues, particularly the number 4. So what happened? What changed between the April 18th and April 27th?
When we wrote the letter on April 18th, we understood that the applicant was looking to make some traffic control improvements at the end of Hadley Mills Road, some lane striping, as well as some stop sign improvements. We had not yet seen those plans. Those plans were presented to the committee at the last meeting, but we had not seen them ourselves. So in the time between the last hearing a week ago and today, we have received those plans. Those plans are acceptable. And as a result of that, our previous comment is no longer applicable.
Okay, the rest of your letter of April 18th, Bob? So I see this for, based on a review, comment 4 has been fully addressed, and we have no additional comments on this application. So has everything else on this letter been addressed?
Everything has been addressed or will be addressed through other processes, such as the stormwater permit approval process.
Okay, the right-of-way for the Holyoke Gas and Electric?
The right-of-way we're in support of. There is a process the council will need to follow in the future to effect that discontinuance, but we've reviewed it, we agree with it, and we will support it when the appropriate time comes.
Now, is that something we have to vote on here, or do we have to condition our special permit on it, or do we not have to do anything?
Perhaps you might want to consult with counsel on that question.
Attorney Barnes?
Can you ask the question again? What are you?
Well, there. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with this, but if you recall, there's a right-of-way, an easement, I guess, if you will, that the owner of the properties is intending to give to the gas and electric so they can access the canal. I'll ask the proponent in a second to just expand upon that. I don't think the proponent disagrees with it. I just want to know if we should have a condition to our special permit relative to that point.
Relative to the easement? I mean,
Yes.
I feel like that would be.
Well, listen, I don't want to put you on the spot. Let me just say here, Rick, Miss Mason, right? Okay, have that right. Okay, and So, Rick, why don't you come to the microphone and just tell just your name and address for the record, and then if you want to introduce, I think you have legal counsel behind you, maybe you can address that point.
I do, and thank you for taking this meeting tonight. My name is Richard Mason. I'm with Burnett Consulting. I represent True Leaf. We are located at 20 Hadley Mills, right besides the job site. The attorney behind me is Jesse Alderman. He is with Foley and Hoag, and he can probably go ahead and address this.
Okay. Yeah, Attorney Alderman, if you would, just your name and address, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Jesse Alderman, Alderman. I'm an attorney at Foley Hoag, and the address of Foley Hoag is 155 Seaport Boulevard, Boston, Mass. 02110.
Thank you. Could you just address that point just relative to the, is it the easement?
Yes, I think I can clear that up. So when Hadley Mills Road was laid out by the city, there was a piece of property that was taken, but that was not actually in the layout itself of the road, nor is it part of the road today. And there are residual rights to easement rights that both the city and HG&E have in this small, we call it Parcel X, this small parcel on the North Bridge Street side of the property. And we have asked, and I believe there is a petition forthcoming that the city discontinue its rights in this small unused parcel, its easement rights, so that we can clear titles of the property at closing. HG&E has agreed, and should the council agree, that would be what would be done with that parcel. Now, separately but relatedly, because it's in the same general vicinity, the applicant, Life Essence, will be providing a 20-foot easement on site to HG&E so that they have better access to utility poles. There are utility poles back there, right? Utility poles on the rear of the building abutting the canal.
Okay, so your client is just say again, so your client is willing to give the easement, is that?
100%.
100% willing, okay. All right, so if we did make a petition on a special permit, that sounds like it would be, I mean, I'm not clear if we need to even do that.
Well, if I may, oh, sorry, Ms. Burns.
That's okay. So the special permit's really about the facility itself, so I'd be hesitant to put any land use regulations in there. I do know now that we're talking about this, the discontinuance is supposed to be coming forward May 7th. We just, we have the language just to put together the order, the meets and bounds. So I think it's going to be, I mean, you're going to have two things on record that'll show for anybody who wants to see. You'll have the discontinuance vote that's going to come on record, and then the special permit as well. So I think combining them may be confusing when, you know, you'll have both sets of records for anyone that would like to review it. Either way.
If I may briefly add to that,
Please.
Mr. Chair, I would also argue against the condition, not because we don't intend to, you know, fully clear title to the property and provide HG&E with this better access, and likewise not impede the city's existing easement rights in any way, but because were the council to vote, you know, against discontinuing that property, I imagine that there could be some reconfiguration that would allow us to continue the use of the property in the same, you know, in the same manner that would be authorized by the special permit. So I don't necessarily see, to expand on Ms. Barnes' point, I don't see your authorization of the use of the property for an MME to necessarily be contingent upon that discontinuance. There's probably ways that we could continue to use the site without the discontinuance. It would also mean purchasing the property without clear title, but
Right,
you know,
but-
that would be our risk to take.
So under our ordinances 9.3.3, we have incredibly broad authority to amend a special permit any way we want to do it. But I heard, so just review that. I heard what you said. I was just really asking kind of hypothetical questions. So I'm not inclined to even make the motion, but I just want to make sure that, and you're willing to do it anyhow, and we're on record so.
Sure.
I mean, so, but to say that we have a limit, we don't. 9.3.3, we
Sure.
have very broad authority to make any kind of a condition on a special permit.
So if you were to, no, I wasn't claiming that
So-
there was not authority. I was just saying it might not be necessary. But, frankly, this is going to get done. It's, we have a title insurance policy. It's part of what we're doing as we work towards closing with the current owner of the property. And I'm pretty sure everybody's on board. So we'll happily accept the condition. I'm not just sure as it's fully necessary.
And again, I don't think it is, and just, I'd be remiss to not repeat it. And I think I said it last week, on behalf of myself only, but we're just very, we always welcome, I think, anyone who wants to invest in the city of Holyoke. And so we know you're very serious people, and you're a very serious team, and so we're just walking through our steps as gradually as we can. And so this is what we're doing here. So, all right, so we do welcome you. All right. I think that we've covered most of the bases, if not all of the bases that I wanted to cover.
The timing, because I just came in late, the hours of operation.
Yeah, so Councilor Lisi, just on the microphone, Councilor Lisi asked whether we covered the timing. And there were several emails, but under and you were included on this one, under our ordinances, the hours are, they don't get to operate from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., Crystal? Okay, so that's in city ordinance. We cannot amend that through a special permit. Can't do that. We can't overturn a city ordinance through a special permit. Not gonna happen. But as I may have said at one point or another, any counselor can file any order at any time on any issue relative to this, including hours of operation. So that's where we are on that.
So just make one point.
Councilor Lisi is recognized, please.
Thank you. So I know that Councilor Murphy has already filed an order to amend the actual ordinance that governs our special permit and the zoning bylaws, and I would be willing to file something to amend the hours of operation, because I think that this isn't the first business that we've heard from that is interested in operating 3 shifts. I don't think any of the businesses that are in the city are at that point just yet where they have a facility in operation that requires 3 shifts, but it's something that I think that we should be working on exploring. And since you have something coming up on the ordinance, I'd look to be filing something relatively soon so that they could be taken up and looked at together while we have the revisit happen.
Well, you have until Friday at 12 to file the order.
I will, thanks.
Good luck. All right, so we got that. Any other counselors have a question mark? Councilor Murphy, please.
Just a few, I did get a chance to visit yesterday, and I got a few concerns that number one, I think we talked about 75 parking spaces. I think that's what we talked about last week. And clearly there's no delineation as to what is a parking space and what isn't. And I was looking at it from a fire truck perspective, because when I was there were cars pretty much all over. So one of the things I would like to see is that you actually delineate what the parking spaces are going to be, and make sure that especially a ladder fire truck would not have a problem. And maybe they've already addressed that with you, but as I was there, I'm trying to think, excuse me, how does a ladder truck get in and out of there, and how do they effectively fight a fire, which obviously would be pretty crucial. So that's one thing I had a concern about. The other thing it's tough to get old here. The other thing I was concerned about was, I know you were asking for a bus stop, or thinking about a bus stop. I'm assuming you were thinking about it as we approach the bridge, and I just have a hard time imagining that a bus stop there would function smoothly without causing additional traffic concerns, especially during peak hours. So those are 2 concerns I had, and I'll have you address those first, and then I got a couple of others.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out today. So the first thing I'd like to say is that in regards to the fire, Lieutenant Ortiz with Holyoke Fire has signed off on both the turning radius, which was part of the drawings, and I certainly have a copy here you can have, and he signed off on the site as a whole. So I turned those in to planning and to Ryan. So those signatures are there. Secondly, PVTA, as far as the bus was concerned, That's something we really just started talking about, and really we're only as far as a message left with them and a message left with us. And this is something that I was advised to be careful about, because Holyoke evidently has got some rules on where bus stops can be. And our first concern is the safety of the people that are working in our plant. So we definitely would want to figure out some way to make this a safe bus stop. It's in the early going, and again, it's to accommodate the local community being able to get to work. That was simply it. So that's a very early stage thing. It was something that we've thrown out there, but it really hasn't gone much further than that at this point.
Would you be willing to delineate the 75 parking spaces and create an area that, is it laid out there?
May I approach real quick?
You may approach.
Let me give you this.
So same thing as last time, Rick, we just gotta have it all on the microphone, okay, as best we can.
I'm gonna go back.
Okay.
So this is Jeff Galarno with VHB. They drew up that. There's actually 78 places, 75 required, and I'll let him go and address the parking.
Jeff Galarno, VHB Engineering, 1 Federal Street, Springfield, Mass. Yeah, so 75 is a requirement, 78 is what we're providing. We have, which you can see on the plan, is just broken up into 3 different areas. We have a main focus right at the front door with some ADA accessible spaces. Here's a larger scale plan upside down here. There you go. So let me take this up. So we have the main entrance here. We have some parking with some ADA. There's another entrance in the back with some additional parking. In this hatched area, you can see that line is the property line. So we're staying within the limits of the property. And then here's our additional parking at the back of the site here. We have an ADA accessible ramp on this side. There's an existing one on this side as well. And we have a hatched walkway, so if somebody was at a park here, they can get out of the vehicular way and then get into a walk area that they can access the front door.
So 78 is what we're going to have, and they are, basically what I'm seeing, they are delineated then. They are going to have a specific
Correct.
space
To get back to your question, what's out there today? Correct. It's not delineated. People,
Right.
You can go there
And
any
that-
day
when I
and
was
see
there,
them.
they were all over the place.
They're all over the place. We're actually giving them locations to actually file into a spot. Right.
Okay, okay. So those are my questions in terms of the layout. And then my other questions, if I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I know you talked about working with Holyoke Community College, so I contacted them as well. So a couple of questions as I reviewed the curriculum. And I'm not sure exactly how I'll ask this, but it'll come out one way or the other. So are we talking about you are going to subsidize potential employees to go and get training at Holyoke Community College in anticipation of being hired? Or are we saying that this is what people need to do in order to get hired?
Mike, if you want to just move it over here.
We would intend to host job fairs and participate and collaborate with the college in terms of providing training seminars, developing curricula, so that community members interested in jobs at the facility can learn the skills. And yes, subsidizing those programs would be a large part of it. I think a good model, at least for an initial or a preliminary program, would be the job fair that also included sealing nonviolent cannabis convictions for people who may have barriers to access to the job market because of those. That there was a large event where that was one component, as well as more of a career fair atmosphere that was held with MGM and one of the existing cultivation groups in town. That was maybe a larger version of what we would plan to do on a continual basis, and to make sure that city residents are considered for all jobs and given access to all jobs, including making sure that they have the skill set that's necessary. So if your specific question regards the mechanics of what programming the community college will be offering, I'm not, unless Rick's done a lot in the, yeah.
I've got that.
Right. I think this came from the comment we made last week, correct, with meeting with Holyoke Community College.
Yep.
I think is it Jeff Hayden?
Yep.
Yes, Jeff came down to my office. We had a conversation. Again, it was in a 45-minute conversation. We didn't get into too much depth, except that True Leaf would certainly be willing to work on any level with them, implementing either looking at the curriculum to see how appropriate it is for our needs, as well as bringing people in for some training. So we're open to those things. But again, he came to the office one day and we had like a 45-minute conversation. And the point of it is that we're certainly willing to become partners with Holyoke Community College as far as getting people trained in the cannabis industry. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just some of the things that he talked to, because he did send me a tentative curriculum. Job work readiness was 12 hours. Primary math and English was 24 hours. Guest service, which I'm assuming would be customer service skills, is 16 hours. OSHA was 8 to 10 hours. Occupation-specific training was 50 hours, and he thought internship, pre-apprenticeship would be 100 hours. So we're talking and this is why I'm asking about subsidies, because I'm assuming a lot of these people that would hopefully apply for jobs and need this training are not in a position to be paying for it themselves. So that's the reason I'm asking about the intent of the subsidy. I appreciate the job fair, and I certainly hope that many of these jobs go to Holyoke people. But again, if there's a way that you can cooperate with the college and these people that are going to potentially be your employees are not having to come up with some money in the front in order to potentially get the job.
So last week, I believe you met Kyle Landrum, who's the director of cultivation for the company nationwide, and we had him also at the community outreach meeting, the statutorily required community outreach meeting the night before, and he explained a process where they onboard people in Gadsden County, Florida, which is a majority minority county. They have roughly half of their workforce is from that. Is from disadvantaged communities within Gadsden County, 100% from the county, most from the municipality where they work. Long wind up here, but the curriculum that he described was not nearly as intensive as that. A lot of the training happens in the facility, on the job, and I'm confident, as an attorney based in Boston and not a professional in the industry, I'm confident enough standing here without Kyle by my side to say that there is no 100-hour training requirement to work in this facility. Our goal is to hire people from the community and train them and create careers for them while they work in the facility. There are some high-skill positions, many are less skilled, and nearly all positions are able to be filled and learn on the job experience. So that's a wonderful curriculum. We would support that. We might work with them to pare down some of the hours requirements or some of the and we were always willing to partner to make sure that people that don't have access to that education could receive it. But I'm not aware that job training for work in this facility for most of the positions would require that magnitude of training.
Okay, so then the connection with Holyoke Community College is a potential goal once someone is hired, if need be, for additional skills.
No, and
So what we had talked about was the fact that you guys, Holyoke was creating their own curriculum in these areas. That's what I understood from Jeff. Mm-hmm. My comment was strictly that we would certainly lend an ear to any help with that curriculum, so that they are putting together the most effective curriculum. I am certainly not qualified to say what it should be. I just said we would certainly aid in that, and any scholarship opportunities, and I'm not sure, but I'm sure True Leaf or Life Essence would put something forward to that for people that couldn't afford that training. Jesse was kind of going to the fact that to get hired there, we certainly wouldn't need someone to come in with 100 hours that's been trained in hospitality, because those go to different areas of cannabis, both from cultivation, then as far as into retail. We would just want to partner with them, again, a 45-minute conversation, and look at curriculum and see if there's any things we could do to aid in that. That was the extent of the conversation.
Okay, and my last two points here. So I'm assuming that it's fully benefited positions?
Kyle, at our community outreach meeting, and I can verify based on what we've seen at the company, said that 99% of the jobs that they have are living wage scale and fully benefited, including spouse and children.
Okay. And I also did some research in terms of True Leave in Florida, so I looked at a lot of job things that were there, and a couple of things I noticed. I mean, there was one, the only one I saw that listed the salary, I know that can't be the only salary, but it was $11, and I thought, well, that won't cut it too much. But then there was others, and the positions were based on experience, and the expected hours in one case were 60 hours a week. Another one was 50 hours a week. I'm only telling him what the ad said.
So Kyle made the point, and we've seen the documentary backup to this, that overtime is paid every minute over. I don't remember whether it was 37.5 hours or 40 hours, and but a lot of these jobs come with opportunity for overtime, and I'm not familiar with the ads, and I'm not familiar with what the pay scales or the cost of living is in Gadsden County, Florida. I can assure you that $11 an hour would not be the salary at this facility.
Okay. Thank you.
No, because it would violate mass wage law. Councilor Lisi.
I think I'm all set. I was going to just chime in on the relationship with HCC to an extent, but I think it became very clear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really encouraged by, I'm going to ask Mr. Parent a question, but I'm really encouraged by Attorney Alderman's description about the jobs, and I wasn't aware of the benefit for the families as well. So that's kind of, but our conditions, once we pose them, we're not going to include, we're not going to drill down to that. That's not where we go. I mean, that's kind of perspective, and we're hopeful that you get there. But if you come close to 300 jobs, if you come close to 225 jobs, I mean, I think that's really impressive, and that would be, vital, especially to Ward 1, which, again, I will ring the bell. That's why we set the zoning the way we did. This body did, this committee did, this council did. Not unanimous, but we did it. And that's why we did it. And the investment. I think that now is probably, let's see, the council raise hands. Councilor, you're set. So is there anyone from the public that would want this? We're in a public meeting. Anyone from the public want to speak for or against it? Mr. Moriarty, come up to the mic.
We actually closed the public hearing.
We did not close the public hearing. It was not closed, Councilor. Mr. Moriarty, we are in a public hearing. We've already opened the public hearing. We've already opened, we're in a public hearing. We've already opened it. So we're in a public hearing. The chair's ruled. Mr. Moriarty, just your name and address, please.
Tremendous. Michael Moriarty, 1 Lexington Avenue. I'm also the executive director of One Holyoke Community Development Corporation, which is based at 70 Lyman Street in the Flats of Holyoke. And I'm here to speak in favor of this proposal. Certainly want to encourage the committee and the entire city council to support this, to help it move forward. I think your work in shaping it is going to be beneficial to the city, and I appreciate those efforts as well. I can tell you that the increase in value, just based on the reported cost, is going to have a tremendous impact on the tax base, but equally important is the work that's going to go into the property and the jobs that are coming. We try to work very closely with residents of the flats and want to, with projects like this, and so we've been in communication with Mr. Mason. We've toured the facility. We're delighted that Conklin isn't leaving Holyoke, but rather relocating to or centralizing. They've been a tremendous neighbor to us. We feel we are keeping a tremendous neighbor and gaining another tremendous neighbor as a couple hundred jobs come into the neighborhood. There is nothing but upsides to this from our perspective.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else from the public, pro or con? Hearing none. Before we go on, department heads, Mr. Parent, Bob, one of the, and I saw on, just remind me your name, please. Rick. No, no, Rick I got, just.
Jeff Galarno.
Jeff. So on his sheet, it showed how the parking is determined. Now, it said for manufacturing, right at the top corner, Jeff, it says, what's the scale on there for it? Just so I can have the
chart?
Yeah, it says.
Yeah, it's manufacturing, it's 1 space per 4 employees.
1 space, okay, so Jeff just read it, and is that city ordinance, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay, so city ordinance says, in manufacturing, 1 space for 4 employees. I mean, I don't know when that was written. Maybe when we had a trolley walking through, driving through Holyoke, when, I mean, so, but 1 space for 4 employees, Bob. Now that's not normal. That's not realistic in 2019, but, you know, it is what it is, so we have to abide by it, but you want to comment on that?
I can certainly, and Marcos may want to weigh in as well, because it really is more of a planning related item. I would expect that when you're looking at the total number of employees, you're looking at the total number of employees across the entire workday. And I understand, obviously, that the ordinance right now doesn't allow for operation 24/7, but I believe that the employee numbers that have been calculated to date are based on that 24/7 number. So if and when the council chooses to modify the ordinance, you won't have 300 employees on site at any one time. You'll have a third of those employees on site at any one time. So when you take a look at doing the math and you say 300 divided by 4, now you're looking at 75 employees, or no, I'm dividing by 4 as opposed to 3. So you're looking at in excess of 75 employees, but not 300 employees and 300 cars at any one time. So I think that's part of the math, that those employees are spread potentially over 3 shifts, so that the parking needs are spread over 3 shifts, so that the 1-to-4 ratio makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree with that, only because you're implying that they're going to have equal number of employees at each shift. And I'm saying to you, I strongly doubt that. Strongly doubt it. Mm-hmm. So my guess is that they're going to have more employees on a first or second shift and have a skeleton crew overnight. So I'm just wondering if, Jeff, yeah, is there, Jeff, can you just come to the microphone? Is there, and this is not going to slow it down, but I just want to understand this better. If you had to expand the parking, is that at all feasible there, or is that where is that?
I think on our plan, you can see that we're actually utilizing the majority of our property limits. So we're actually above the 75. We're giving 78. So you can
Right. I caught that part. Yeah. I caught that. Yeah.
But yeah, so we're within our property limits, and we're utilizing as much as we can to gain that 78.
Well, I'm just from my perspective. Again, I'm just one vote. I think this is, you're just using air quotes. I think this is a good problem to have when there's a lot of cars. I think it kind of emphasizes the point that Councilor Murphy tries to raise relative to the PVTA. I can't emphasize enough that PVTA doesn't just get to hang up a sign, even though they do it all the time. It has to come through this body, so we by ordinance establish where the signs go for PVTA. But I think public transportation should be emphasized all the time anyhow, but especially with something like in this area. As we all know, PVTA has cut its services, and especially with the Tiger Trolley and cutter services across that bridge. So now I think it's the X90, whatever they call it, X90A and B, that goes through. So the Tiger Trolley, which links Mount Holyoke really to the city of Holyoke, has been done away with. But with somebody like your company involved and the people you have behind your company, reaching out to the PVTA and more specifically to the legislature, that would probably be a very welcome thing as well, and to get more public transportation, because I just think that, you know, I heard you with the 78 spaces for 78 parking spaces, but Jeff, you know, I just don't, you know, I don't see it being adequate myself. I think it's adequate in terms of this exercise, but I think in the real world, once you come to that, if you get to that many jobs, that many employees, and then you're going to have visitor parking as well. Is visitor parking delineated on there?
We don't have any signage for visitor parking.
So there's no, okay, all right. And I know that's, okay, so the only, I mean, it's not like, it's just manufacturing, I get it. But I'm hard pressed to believe that there'll be no there'll be no visitors to it, even though it's not open to the public.
We don't have any signage on the plan for it.
So you do or don't have visitor parking?
We can add signage if that's, you know, something that's, you know.
No, I'm not telling you what to. I'm not telling you, but I'm just thinking that with, you know, I heard what Mr. Parent said. I just don't see it being, you know, 300 jobs divided by 3 shifts. I don't see it. I just don't think it's going to work out that way. So I think if it falls out that you get this thing going, it's going to be, you know, Jeff, you're going to have pretty tight parking, or really tight parking over there. So again, emphasizing public transportation is something that we have to do. All right, any other counselors have, any department heads have anything else to say? Counselor.
Thank you. I just want to say that recalling back in my days, and many of my family work in many of our industries here, many of us made it to walk, and the beauty of this particular business coming into our community. I think it'll be from our own neighborhood. We're going to push that, and that's one of the goals that my efforts will be, to try to get more of the people, which is the same thing with the most recent business that opened, was to encourage them, and it was part of the host agreement to hire some of the local people. And I can tell you that from those that are working there right now, they walk to the business. So I think the parking will probably be a less issue as we speak about it. And most of our residents who live in this particular neighborhood, some of them do not even own a car. So that just to say that I think it'll release some of that issue that we're facing.
Thank you. Appreciate it as always. Okay, I don't think anybody else has anything to say. I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, on the motion and discussion, hearing none, all in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, I think we can go ahead and take a vote on this. I would like to just remind councilors that we would just have our standard exceptions, which would be that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for duration of special permit. 2, that the business retain respectfully to the host agreement, which is really loose. The special permit's a lot tighter. That the businesses retain a minimum 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are retired members of another police department now residing in Holyoke. 4, that there shall be no consumption allowed on site. 5, that there should be no deliveries of there should be no deliveries of retail or medical marijuana from the site to individual homes, residents, or people, and the hours are the hours. We've already talked about that. So that's my motion for the standard conditions of special permit. Motion's been made and seconded on the special conditions. On discussion, hearing none, to amend the special permit conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. The special permit as amended. Now, we did hear from. Okay, and just to be clear to the public, we did hear from planning and the city engineer subsequent to last week's meeting. And those, and while at last week's meeting, we talked about maybe adding those as as a conditions of permit, now based upon what the department has just said, we don't need to do that. That would probably be superfluous. However, if a counselor wanted to amend it on the floor next week, we could. We can always do that. So we just recommend at this point. So Bob and Marcos, I kind of summarized that correct, didn't I? Okay, thank you to you both. By the way, thank you for both being here tonight. As well as Crystal, as always, for being here. Okay, so and are there any other amendments? There are none. On a special permit as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, to the proponent, we just recommend, that's all we do. We recommend it to the full city council. We're recommending that we move this, that we grant the special permit as conditioned. City council will meet Tuesday, May 7th at 7 o'clock. Bet you a dollar doesn't start on time, but that'll be the posted time. And then we'll just take it up then, we'll have a discussion. So it's it's a public meeting, so you're welcome to attend. Okay, so thank you to department heads, thank you everybody for being here. Let's take one more motion and we'll wrap it up.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made and second to adjourn, all in favor? Aye, we are adjourned, thank you.